Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. My name's Chris, and if you've never been here before, then after this video, why don't you have a little look around my channel? There's all sorts of content on gear reviews, tutorials, and even some random vlog stuff in there as well. So there's plenty to keep you occupied. But today is a very special day because of this. Now, just to give you a bit of backdated history, I've been a massive fan of Nord for over 15 years now, and the very first professional board I ever bought was in fact a Nord Stage EX. RIP to the EX, she's long gone now. But that makes it even more exciting that today sits before me the Nord Stage 4. This is a big deal in the fact that I've been able to wangle somehow this being in my house. I'm really excited about. And I want to take you through, because there have been so many reviews on this already, there have been so many sound demos, people have went through every individual patch to that extent. So I'm not going to try and, remake the wheel or anything like that today, but what I am going to do is highlight a few key parts of each section I think are really worth talking about and really, just noteworthy, to be honest. So before we get into it, there's going to be sound demos throughout the video, so don't skip ahead unless you want to. I'm going to timestamp everything, so you'll know when I'm talking about a certain section. But if you like this content, just smash like. Do that, because that's so helpful to being able to push this video out to other people as well. So the first thing we're going to do is dive into what I call the global section. This part in the middle of the keyboard right here. This is where everything kind of goes and comes alive. Now, firstly, we've lost setlist mode. That's been binned off. Say goodbye. And I'll talk a little bit later on why I actually think that's a really good thing. But what we have been given now is this fancy new preset library. And what that means is per section, you can save things as presets. So per section or per layer. And that allows you to really make your patches a lot faster. And it makes it just an absolute dream, to be totally honest. So that's one really interesting thing about the preset library as well. You've obviously got 8 live modes now as well. You used to only have 4 when I had my Stage EX. So lots of changes in that as well. And there's a lot more to delve into in this kind of global section, as I'm calling it, which we'll have to look at in another video, because if I did everything, this video would be like an hour, 2 hours long, which I just don't have time for. So we're going to move on over to the organ section, okay? So obviously the biggest change here is the fact that we've got these sexy, oh my word, so sexy, the drawbars. In fact, let's turn off the piano section and turn on just the organ. And it's so responsive, so responsive. Oh, so we can do things like turn on the sustain pedal. So anyway, lots of fun things to do there and get yourself stuck into. Another new thing with the organ is the B3 bass mode, which basically takes, if you had all the foot pedals, puts them in the lower register so you can smash out a bit of extra bass on the old left hand if you need those times to fill that out. So we're going to move over now into the piano section. And the big difference here is that we've got now called dynamic compression. So I'm going to show you what this is, because it's kind of like a compressor, but it's not really, because compressors color the sound of whatever they're compressing. That's why a lot of people use them. But this takes the different velocity layers and levels that you're playing at and just squishes them and evens them out to one more kind of usable space. So I'm going to use a little extract from a piece from Final Fantasy. So we've got this. So that's absolutely no dynamic compression at all. Now, if I put on dynamic comp 1, you'll instantly hear the difference. I'm going to put in my second headphone. So I'm purposely trying to play very soft and with minimal kind of like big dynamics at the moment. So you should be hearing a bit of a change each time. Dynamic comp 2. And then finally, dynamic comp 3. Okay, I'm going to go back to no compression at all, no dynamic comp. So can you see how drastic that change is from nothing all the way to 3? It sounds really more obvious there, but I was trying to play with the exact same dynamic control each time. I know I'm a human, so I'm definitely not the best at doing that. I could have probably programmed it with MIDI, but I wanted you to see that change there. So that's dynamic compression. It's really cool. It's really fun. Another thing is we've got unison control. So this is really cool for when you're doing piano sounds, and you used to want to get that doubled up piano sound. So that's just the piano on its own. And before, you'd have to burn a second piano layer and do a little bit of tweaking and twiddling with some effects to be able to get that detuned piano sound. But now you just hit unison 1. And then unison 2. And then unison 3. So you can see the differences in those different unison layers there. There's a lot of flexibility and a lot of usability in that. It's really, really cool. Moving over to Synth Land. Now, this guy is basically on steroids. We've essentially got the Wave 2 in here, and it's a very powerful beast indeed. I'm not going to go too much into this just now, but just literally using a basic saw. So you got lots of sound shaping possibilities. You can have a sample loaded, so you've got which is nice. You can choose to have analog waveforms. You've got different types, so you've got categories like saw, sine, multi-saw as well. Lots of things there. And you've got 3 layers to work with in that section. Each layer has got an arpeggiator and a gate. You just turn on the arpeggiator and you can turn on keyboard hold as well, so that you don't have to use the sustain pedal. And if I turn that off for a second, what's really cool about it now is that the arpeggiator and the gate can function not only in single note mode, but it can also work polyphonically. So much flexibility, and that's per one single layer as well. Want to make that really clear. So you've got 1, 2, 3 layers of all that going on, and you've got a total of 48 notes of polyphony within that synth section. So quite a lot of power there really going on. And then we're going to go back. We've got to the end in the layer effects section. Now, I think this is where Nord have really spent their time and money. It's really obvious to see that they've worked hard to make this as powerful but also as simple as possible, because you've got a layer effect per layer and also per section. So how that works is you can choose to have, so for instance, on the piano section just now, the layer effects is working across the group of pianos A and B together. So any effect you apply is for both pianos together. But if you press the shift button, you can have it so that it's only the layer effect for piano B. Or if you select piano A, it'll follow focus and immediately become the layer effect for piano A. So the possibilities here for kind of deep effects processing are, I mean, it's pretty much just up to your imagination, because you can have different effects on different pianos, but then you could apply a compressor and a reverb to the whole section to glue those two sounds together and make it really cohesive and just tight and punchy for sending to front of house or whatever you're sending it to. And you've got that across, like I say, every layer and then every section on top of that as well. So the power is absolutely phenomenal. And then just to finally, on the left-hand side here, you've got your trusty mod wheel and you've got your pitch stick, which absolutely flipping adore. This mod wheel, the first time I realized how powerful it was to be able to just have lots of things turned on, have all the things turned on, and instantly, just from when the wheel's down there, if you press and hold wheel, you can just like move things. You can have that go like that. And then we can do that. And then, so from 0 all the way up to 100, I've changed so many parameters already. And then as I want to, I can just change more things. I can just fanny about and literally just go wild. I can turn on things. I can have it turn off things, and it'll all follow in real time. Now, there's a really good kind of bit of information in the manual that'll tell you about which things are assignable to the wheel. But nowadays, almost everything is assignable to a morph function. And you've got more than one morph function as well. You've got the wheel. You've also got aftertouch, which is in the KeyBed where you dig in a little bit harder. But you've also got on a control pedal as well. Super, super powerful. I can't say that enough. The control pedal can literally control things like master clock for tap tempo, or it controls the brand new pump feature within the layer effects, which we didn't even talk about. There are some new amazing effects that Nord have just snuck in there. We've got a pump, we've got a vibe. The vibe is so cool. We've got a spin section. We've got new reverbs and things like that as well. And I'm so excited to do more of this in the future and show you more different things. But I'm getting too carried away with myself. I'm getting too excited. So just to bring it back into play here, on the back panel, all our connections are so useful. We've got monitor in, so we can just plug any device in and listen to backing tracks, either to jam along with or to perform with. Obviously, you've got your headphone output. You've got 4 different assignable outputs. You've got pedals, control pedals, organ swell, sustain pedal, and triple pedal. And interestingly, with the sustain and triple pedal, if you've got Nord triple pedal 1, you can plug that into the sustain pedal and it'll give you the triple pedal functionality. But then you can also plug the brand new triple pedal 2 into the triple pedal section, giving you another 3 completely separately assignable pedals to use. And then on top of that, you've also got a connection for a rotor pedal, so you can have a half moon switch somewhere if you want it. And you've also got foot switch as well, which, like I said earlier, can be assigned to that control pedal Morph Assign. So you could have a whole pedal board of different pedals controlling things on the keyboard. So we could have one that's set to just on the triple pedal. You could have patch up and patch down, or next patch and previous patch, things like that. Your foot switch could be controlling your pump, your sidechain effect for songs that have got time-based effects, or it could be tap tempo. sky's the limit. It's just insane. Now, just to talk about the KeyBed here, let's go back, layer initialize, and we're going to go back to a piano. Did you see how easy that was, by the way? I'm sorry, I have to chat about that again. So one of the things I always think is really important is being able to get back to just a basic piano sound as quickly as possible if you need to. So I've turned on everything on the board just now, like pretty much everything that I can turn on is on. There we go, look, all the lights as much as possible are on. And if I just want to get back to a basic piano sound, I literally just hit Shift button and hit Layer Initialize, and then press to initialize. You can either initialize everything, just the organ, just the piano, or just the synth, or a combination, whatever works for you. But as soon as you do that, for instance, I'll initialize everything, press that, and it goes back to just being a piano. And what I like even more is that it's actually called the perfect grand. And it is perfect. Lovely. So now that we've got a simple piano sound, what was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about the KeyBed because it's just lush. It's just so delightful to play. This KeyBed is brand new. It's a triple sensor graded hammer action KeyBed. Now the triple sensor part basically means that on note repetitions, which I'm not the best at doing, it triggers a lot quicker on the down press. So it triggers almost halfway through a down press. So before, you would have to almost completely release the finger off to be able to re-trigger the note. But the trigger happens so much sooner now because of that. And the graded hammer part just means that you get a bit more heft on the bottom versus the top where it feels nice and light. So there's lots of playability in this keyboard. For me, this is the absolute sweet spot of keyboards because KeyBeds, I mean, because so the Roland Phantom, for example, I find to be quite a hefty, heavy keyboard to play, the KeyBed of it. And then as an opposite example, the Yamaha CK88 I find to be very light and quite springy and sometimes a little bit spongy as well. But for me, this is my Goldilocks level of KeyBeds. Lovely. Let's try an EP. Oh my word, let's try an EP. So we've got... Man, it's just lush. I flipping love playing this keyboard. I'm gonna get so carried away. But is that somebody knocking my door? Pause, guys, pause. No idea. Oh well, right. 20 minutes in. Okay guys, we're gonna try and speed this through here. In terms of practicality, this keyboard is insane because Although it looks like the Starship Enterprise of keyboards, it's actually really accessible because of the fact that it's broken down into sections. You can just focus on learning one little section at a time. The day you buy it, only look at the piano stuff. Only look at the piano stuff, don't look at anything else. Spend a week on just the pianos and then move on to something else like the synth section. Now, the synth section probably will take you a month of dedicated time to really master because there is so much power in there. But it's still just enclosed in this little box here. Anything to do with synth happens over here. And it's really easily laid out because you start off with your sound, you've got your LFO, and then you change the oscillator or however many oscillators are assigned that you want to use, and then you can filter the sound based on that. And then you've got things that you can apply to the filtered sound like arpeggiator or gates, or you can change how the voice reacts. You can change it to be either mono or polyphonic, and you can change it to be a legato sound or how much glide between notes. It's all movable. And the great thing is, if you go too far and freak out and just want to start again, layer, initialize, back to go. And you know what? Collect £200. Do not go to jail. You're done. Everybody's happy. So yeah, that's why I think this keyboard, although extremely powerful and sometimes a bit intimidating to look at on the fly, is one of the most accessible keyboards I've ever came across. I've got the Roland Phantom 6 and it's an absolute beast. I love it. It's a really great keyboard, but the learning curve was extremely steep because it's a workstation and it's not a stage piano like this is claiming to be. Okay, so cons. The cons of this keyboard are things like, a lot of people say, oh, memory. The piano section has only got 2 gig of memory, so 2 gig is nothing, right? I mean, I've got 128 gig in my phone. But the problem is that people aren't realizing, and I don't know what the magic is behind this, but Nord use a proprietary software compression technique that allows them to keep their, especially the piano samples, extremely low memories. I mean, for example, that Perfect Grand sound, that's the XL White Grand, and it's around 200 megabytes in size. And XL, so XL is their like extra large, it's fully mapped across the keyboard, it's got all the string resonance, it's got everything in that sound, and it's 200 megabytes. 200 megabytes is nothing for a piano sound that sounds this good. So clean, and there's no reverb on that, there's no compression, it's just a little bit of the string resonance, and the keyboard touch is set to medium so that it's quite responsive. There's no dynamic compression, and that's what I mean. So although 2 gigabytes isn't a lot, it is a lot really, because you can get so many different pianos in that one section. And then you've also got a gig of sample-based memory as well. And that's just for the samples. The analog synth stuff is just in there as part of the synth engine. And that's another thing to talk about, polyphony. Polyphony on this keyboard is never a problem because of the fact that there are 3 separate engines which never interfere with each other. It doesn't matter what you do. So the piano polyphony is 120. Doesn't matter. It's always 120. That's split between the 2 sections, to be fair. But if you use unison mode, that doesn't affect your overall polyphony. So applying unison to a single piano sound doesn't change how many notes of polyphony you're going to achieve or have to deal with. And on the synth section, you've got 48 notes of polyphony, and that's all through there. And you've got the unison mode on that as well. So there's a lot to get into here. Man, I'm starting to get a bit rambly and excited, but it's because I am rambly and excited, man. This thing is absolutely insane. I'm going to try and round it off now because this is starting to just like blow my mind. How many things I want to do, and I'm going to need to plan out a list of videos because it's just too much. But just to kind of like cap this off here, I do want to talk about price, because on the face of it, this seems, some have used the word overpriced. Now, for the 88-note keyboard, the price at the moment is around 4,080 British pounds. I don't know what that is in Canadian dollars or European or things like that, but British pounds, it's just over 4,000 pounds. And that sounds like a lot of money, which it is. You can buy a car for 4,000 pounds. But my first Nord Stage EX was 2,500 pounds. And let me tell you, it didn't even have half of the features. In fact, it didn't even have a third of the features that this keyboard has. My piano section, I can't remember. I'm sure it had something like, it was only 500 megabytes of memory. If anybody knows the actual specifications of the original Stage EX, put it in the comments below. Let me know exactly how much megabytes there was on the piano memory. It wasn't a lot though. And for instance, there was no scene remain on patches, so for patch changes, there was no scene remain. You couldn't do that on the original Nord Stage EX. The synth section was woeful in comparison to this. It didn't have an arpeggiator. It didn't have polyphonic arpeggiation. Didn't have a gate. Didn't have a pump sidechain effect. You couldn't assign so many things to a foot switch to do control pedal, tap tempo, tap pump. Okay. Bring it back in, Chris. The point I'm trying to make is that actually £4,000 for a keyboard of this magnitude with this much potential and power is not overpriced. Let's just be honest, it's not overpriced. What you're talking about is it's out of your price range. And people don't like to hear that. But the reality is that if £4,000 is too expensive for a keyboard for you, then you're not buying this keyboard. And that's all right, that's not a problem. But people who like their hobbies, like golfists and skiers and things like that, golfists, they'll happily drop £10,000 on a set of golf bats, and they'll buy a golf buggy, or they'll hire one, or they'll pay for a very expensive golf membership to wear their Pringle trousers and stuff like that. And I just think affordability and price overpricedness, it's all within the eye of the beholder. If you're a person who can afford this keyboard, I will tell you this right now. If you buy this keyboard because you can actually afford to buy it, you will not be sad. That's the long and the short of it. This keyboard is banging. It's got flaws. There are certain things it can't do, like it can't do audio over USB. It doesn't have a built-in vocoder. So I'm going to round this off now, this little ramble that this review has turned into. I hope you're still with me. And I'm just going to say that, yeah, like I said earlier, if you decide to buy this keyboard, you will not be disappointed. You will be learning this keyboard for years to come. There will be things that you discover that you didn't realize it could do in several years, and it can turn it into a brand new keyboard overnight just by learning one new aspect. So, suffice to say, there will be more videos on this channel about this keyboard because I'm really excited to have it and I want to make the most of having it. I don't know how long I've got it for. So keep an eye out. I'm going to do some more playing examples in other videos because I've just chatted on so much just now. But thanks so much for watching. If you like this content, if you found it interesting, please give it a like. If you want to comment below telling me maybe what your favorite part of the board is or what you might have liked to see on the board, then do it in the comments below. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Thanks a lot, guys.